Hey everybody, Brian from Witch Doctor. Hopefully you all are doing well. Thank you for tuning in. Had an interesting request to test action screw torque, and so I went ahead and devised a test for action screw torque. I used my fat wrench here, which provides different types of torques in inch pounds, down from 0 to 65, around 70. I typically set my action screws at about 65 with this torque wrench, and usually screw in the first screw to about 40 or so, screw in the rear screw to about 40, and then finish up with screwing in the front screw to 60, 65, and then go ahead and torque down the rear one to 60, 65. So that's my sort of standard way of torquing. But sometimes if you don't have a torque wrench, you're screwing these things down by hand, whatever, you don't really know for sure how much torque is applied. And I have heard stories of people's, having really low torque values and having, precision issues, but went ahead and wanted to go ahead and test this out myself and see, is it really a big deal how much torque that you set your action screws at. I went ahead and I used my bat stock, bat machine stock. It is pillar bedded. You can see these little pillars here, metal pillars in the front and back for the two action screws, and it's bedded. You can see the bedding job, and that is bedded for my Bat Nouveau action, which also has a drop port, so you can see the little funnel here for the drop port. And this was a rifle that I used, and basically what I did is I loaded several rounds of a good known load. I had just load developed this with this LT32 powder. I had a previous lot that I was shooting tests with, and I ran out, and so I started using this new lot, and I wanted to make sure that it shot well. So I went ahead and did load development under my standard conditions with my 60-65 inch-pound torqued action. Developed a good load, which used these excellent PRP Joker bullets. These are the 825 jackets, and it's in a Brux barrel with a 14 twist, and using Federal 205M primers that are weight sorted, Norma brass in a 262 neck, so the brass is turned. And the load that shot the best, most reliably, was 27.5 grains of this LT32. So essentially for the test, I loaded several rounds with 27.5, put the Jokers right at about 2,000 off touch. I seem to have pretty darn good luck with these bullets, just off touch. And, loaded all the ammunition the same. Primers were seated 8,000s deep. Primers were weight sorted, and same brass lot, same bullet lot, etc. And then I went to the range and I adjusted the torque values when I was shooting. So I would shoot a 5-shot group with the torque value at 15 inch-pounds, shoot another 5-shot group with it set at 30, another 5-shot group set at 45, and another 5-shot group set at 60. And I repeated this 4 times. And so burned up, a lot of ammo, but wanted to make sure I had a good enough sample size. And so you can see, just from looking at the groups, this column here is the torque set at 15, very loose. I mean, and you can just see flyer, massive, large group, flyer, shotgun pattern there. So group shapes for the low torque 15 inch-pounds was, pretty big group sizes. And I got the averages for all the different conditions, 15, 30, 45, and 60. The average group size for the 15 torque condition was 0.49 1.7. So pretty big. Certainly not competitive at all. If you accidentally only tighten these things around 15, I'm pretty much going to say you're going to have some serious precision problems. At 30, you can see here where, yes, I started having, some big groups. I did have a 282, so not too bad, but another flyer and what's called a 3-2 group, 3 kind of together and then 2 off to the side together. On average, the group size there was 0.38437, so still pretty big, but seemed to have been an improvement over 15. And then for 45 inch-pounds, same thing, got a lot of large groups, like lots of horizontal on that one. Kind of an okay 0.279 on that one. 268, some vertical, and then a lot of horizontal on this one. The average for 45 in terms of group size was 0.3548, so pretty big still, but again, another improvement over 30. So I'm starting to see incremental improvements here as the torque values go up. And then finally with 60, the group started coming together. I had 2 groups in the ones, a 166 and a 193. This one, I think I forgot to foul the barrel, and my first shot was out of the group, but the other 4 were grouped pretty tight. So without that sort of fouler shot that I should have taken, it should be a 0.49, but with it is a 0.324. And well, I just added the 0.324. That's the group size that I went with. And so, out of those, it aggregated to 0.2352. And even with this sort of big one, this 0.324 included in that data. So anyway, ran the statistical analyses, which is called in analysis of variance, or an ANOVA, and that tells me, out of these 4 conditions, which, are there any differences in there? And it basically came out and said, yes, my probability value that there is a difference in this data among these 4 conditions, somewhere among these 4 conditions, was 0.00031. So definitely a high likelihood that there is a real and meaningful statistically significant difference. And then what I did is, after that, I ran what's called a Tukey's test to see, well, where out of these 4 conditions are there differences? And I found that for 15, that was different than 30, 45, and 60. 15 definitely had larger groups compared to 30, 45, and 60. 30 and 45 statistically were the same, and that's a 0.3843, 0.3548. So statistically speaking, with this size of a sample, they were about the same. And then finally, the biggest meaningful result that I believe is that 60 foot-pounds was a lot smaller than 15, 30, and 45. So the statistics basically say that you definitely want to set your action screws at 60. Don't go below that. Like I said, I normally set mine around 65. I'm just going to continue to do that and just make sure that I'm not below 60. Because if you're going below that, there's a chance your precision is going to be poor. So anyway, that's the conclusions there, is tighten these action screws to at least 60. Don't go below that. A lot of people recommend, again, torquing down when you do your final torque down to 60 or 65, whatever you're going to do that on the front action screw first, and then follow up with your rear. Let's see. And I also took some data on ballistics, like muzzle velocity, and there was like no difference in the average muzzle velocity when shooting these 5-shot groups. They were pretty much the same. They were all in the 32-60 range in terms of muzzle velocity. Standard deviations, on average, the 60 inch-pound condition had a small standard deviation of 5.9, but 15 had a 7.5, so probably nothing real meaningful there. Same thing with extreme spread. So anyway, all that to say, in conclusion, ballistically speaking, if you have anything below 60, in the 45, 30, 15 inch-pound range in terms of torquing your action screws, ballistically, probably nothing big, but precision-wise, certainly going to have a major effect. So at this point in time, I'm concluding that the torque on these action screws is a major variable in precision, at least for this setup where I have these pillar bedded stock. So definitely a major factor and something to pay attention to. So from what I'll be doing is making sure I pay close attention to that and use my Wheeler torque wrench here and make sure it's set at least to 60. Probably it looks like it goes up to about 65, 70. I'll probably go 65 just to be on the safe side. That's normally what I use. Seems to work well. And in terms of the data, it says do at least 60. So there you go. That concludes the test on action torque. Please like, subscribe, and share. Also, please be sure to join my Patreon page, and please help out if you can with financial support for these tests. The stuff gets expensive. I do have something. And some quick final remarks before closing out this video. The groups were shot on the same day, so I shot this set of groups on day 1 and this set of groups on day 2. So it's not that I shot 15 on one day and 30 on another, and the wind flags really weren't moving much. Anyway, so I'd say all pretty valid. Now what I did on day 1 is I shot 15, 30, 45, and 60 in that sequence, and then on day 1 again, I went from 60 to 45 to 30 to 15 to sort of change up the order of effects. And then on day 2, I just picked, okay, I'm going to shoot 30 first, 45 second, 15 third, and 60 last. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to shoot 60 first, 15 second. So I changed up the order of effects in a more dramatic way on day 2. Again, either way, it's all showing pretty much a consistent pattern. So just FYI, I know a lot of people ask me about my methodology. I do things to reduce what are called order effects in terms of shooting which group was shot first. I clean the barrel in between each string. I cool the barrel. I actually bought this fan because it is pretty warm out. I shot all of these in around 70-degree temperature, 55% humidity, and about 30.1 Hg barometric pressure. So they were all, in terms of the atmosphere, all shot in the same atmosphere. Use this fan here to cool the barrel. So again, I also have temperature indicators on all my barrels, and I watched it, made sure that it was down below 84 degrees before shooting all the groups, clean the barrel, things like that. So definitely use all those things to rule out order of effects, whether it was a cold bore shot, was it fouled, was the barrel fouled, etc. So I use all those techniques to rule those factors out. And another final remark too on Patreon, I post videos there and other types of posts with images and things like that almost on the daily. So I always I'm trying to get a lot more content on there, much more than I have on YouTube. So if you really want a lot of inside information, shooting matches, shooting match strategy, all that kind of stuff, I post a lot about that, again, almost daily. I try to get posts on there all the time to get information out there. I also put polls on there, what do my patrons want to see in terms of testing. In fact, that's where I got the idea to do this action screw testing. So anyway, definitely highly encourage hitting that Patreon and becoming a patron. All right, thanks everybody. Take care.